I think meetings are a great lab, sociological lab. I've once attended a seminar or a conference for women in tech, and I remember one of the presenters has said that inclusion isn't a rocket science. It's more difficult because we trying to change within our walls what society has made outside of the walls for generations. And I thought that that was such a good and on the point statement, and this is such a sociological statement as well. I've got master degree in sociology, and whilst I don't think that the paper itself has helped me enormously, I definitely think that the skills, the ways of thinking, the methodology of social research has helped me as a HR professional and as someone who has always been trying to champion diversity and inclusion. I wanted to start the series with sharing 5 ways in which sociology has helped me in my work as HR professional and as diversity and inclusion champion. So number 1, the importance of listening and asking questions. In the social research, the qualitative data which are obtained from interviews with other people are often a great source of information and insight. So we were taught how to listen and how to ask powerful questions, how to ask questions that don't influence the answer, that stay neutral. We also were thinking about the order of questions we were asking, because we were very aware that by the whole act of the sole act of asking someone's question, we are potentially going into the subconsciousness or something that perhaps they were not conscious of themselves. So we have an impact on the individual this way. One of the very important things as well was probing, really paying attention to what is being said, what words are being chosen by an individual, and then use them to probe, to understand deeper. So really we were often helping an individual to get to the answer, because the answer is not always there when we ask them. And that really helped me in my HR role, when coaching managers, employees, when working with people, when understanding the root causes of the behavior or the mindset, because by knowing that, we could really work together on the better outcome for them and for the organization. The next point, the second point, is observing. In sociology we have, or in the social research, we have a methodology of research called participant observation. I really love that one. It was developed by Polish sociologist Bronisław Malinowski. He was studying the tribes by spending time with them and observing. Participant observation, put simply, is basically mingling with a group, observing them, looking for patterns, for habits, traditions, interactions, and so on. In the workplace, the participant observation is I really enjoy doing participant observation at work, especially I think meetings are a great lab, sociological lab, of looking for those patterns, looking for that hierarchy, who's being listened to, why, whose decisions, how decisions are being made, whose ideas are we going with, and why. The more aware you are, the better it is, the better you can serve the organization, the team, because you can give them the insight and challenge perhaps the status quo, perhaps challenge the way that decisions are being made, or knowing who you need to influence if you want to make a difference. It doesn't have to be participant observation as such, but observing, I feel like it's a really important skill to have, and especially if we want to influence and make a change when it comes to diversity and inclusion, because what we are often dealing with are micro messages, are micro inequalities, are those micro behaviors that are happening that are sometimes difficult to point the finger on if you don't pay attention. So pay attention and observe. There's not much talking on my list. Number 3, taking on the bigger picture. I'm gonna use an example of Emil Durkheim, was one of their pioneers in sociology, and his work on suicide. Something as personal and as individual as suicide can actually be looked at from a bigger picture perspective. Because Emil Durkheim noticed that there are certain rates of suicides more common for certain demographics or in certain regions and so on. So it really brought the light into the bigger picture. This is not to say that the psychological aspects were not at play, but really brought that attention to wider context. And for me, that this is just an example, but in this, I feel like in sociology we look at so many more aspects when we look at the phenomenon. So how it helped me, how it can help me in my HR role or my diversity and inclusion role. Let's take a classic example of performance management. So you may look at that from an individual point of view only. So you may say there's a capability issue, this person is not performing well or is not confident or what have you, and it can be pretty black and white sometimes, but I would add my shades of gray when it comes to things like that, because there are so many more elements at play that you can look at. Maybe if we look at the environment, we will find that should we tweak the environment, the performance may improve. Maybe it's not about capability, maybe it's about how they're being perceived, or maybe how they are manifesting the culture. I think it's worth taking on the bigger picture first. Look at the environment, look at the internal and external environment of the individual, maybe external data as well, because there may be hidden some clues that can help us and that can help the individual. Number 4, applying theory into practice. So when we were studying sociology, when I was studying sociology, we would often be acquainted with theory or a model, and then we would apply critical thinking to that, and then think about how does it apply into practice. So sometimes it's about predicting behavior, sometimes it's about understanding behavior, sometimes it's about looking for new patterns if they are emerging, or so on. I remember once we were asked to use totalitarian institutions theory and apply it into a real life scenario, and I've actually compared working as a waitress in a restaurant in Italy and in America, because I've had that experience, and one of them was fitting a little bit more to the totalitarian institutions theory than the other. So how do I apply that in my work as HR, as a diversity and inclusion specialist? In several ways. So one, it's applying critical thinking and thinking what the theory is telling us, how it's been studied, and then can I apply that into the practice and how? So I have got some models taken from several books, and I've noticed that applying them into my specific scenarios, I can predict behaviors, I can help communicate better, and make an impact. Because of the science behind, we have better chances of addressing certain situations in a better way. Building cultures, understanding values, understanding people's behaviors, and understanding culture as a concept when you want to do diversity and inclusion, as I've mentioned at the beginning, it's not a rocket science, it's harder, because we are changing within the walls what we've done for years or generations in outside worlds. And finally, last but not least, definitely one of the most important actually, number 5, the use of data. It's quantitative and qualitative data, and all work around how we make sense of the world around us, and how we make sure that this is just not an anecdotal example, that there is a pattern or element of predictability behind that. I've already done some videos on that topic, so I'm just going to link it down below. So this is it for the introduction, my 5 ways in which sociology has helped me in my HR practice and diversity and inclusion. And in the next videos I will be looking more specifically into some concepts, ideas, skills, tools, and applying them into the field of diversity and inclusion. So I hope you're gonna stay with me. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.